What is up, NBA family, and welcome back to the Shoot the J NBA channel. Today, we will be discussing what has gone on through the NBA offseason and everything that's happened through the past 3 weeks while the World Cup has been going on. It's time to lock the fuck back in into the NBA season. I think I could speak for everybody when I say that everybody wants basketball to be back into the limelight right now. The Summer League just ended. That was absolute buns, total bums that I'm watching on my screen. I'd rather watch the G League. I'd rather watch the WNBA. I mean, this is just awful, but we need the NBA season to come back. We're only a couple months away from the NFL and the NBA season. So let's get right into all the offseason trades. I think starting off with one of the biggest trades and offseason moves this year for Boston and the Celtics. At first, it seemed like the Celtics were looking to boost their roster by dumping Nikola Vucevic and signing um, Mitchell Robinson after he won a championship with the New York Knicks. They snagged Mike Conley for a little bit of guard depth. Everything's going the right way for the Celtics. It looks like they're having another great year in the East until they move Jaylen Brown. Not only do they move their best player on their roster, but they move him for George of Paul George in 2026. This is real. This is a real trade. Um, this team just gets significantly older overnight. Everybody's pointing fingers, looking at questions like, what's going on? To be fair, I think they kind of soured it already just by not um, giving him the right treatment, I would say. He was in the podcast just talking all this shit here and there. There was some shade being thrown. It was clear that he was going to be moved, but nobody thought he would be moved for Paul George. Nonetheless, he doesn't only go to another team, he goes to another stacked team in the East and a rival in the East in the Philadelphia 76ers. Back to Boston. Boston will require absolute heroics from Jason Tatum. I mean, look at this. Where is it? Here? Look here. Yeah, right there. Look at this starting lineup. I mean, we got Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Paul George, Jason Tatum, and Mitchell Robinson. What the hell is going on? Their regular season may be fruitful as usual, but the real playoff pressure will expose their fading roster as more and more of their pieces fall off from their championship year in 2024. They have a much lower ceiling now. Best of luck to the Celtics. But the East is tough, my brother. Very tough. As we move along through the East in this video, I want to speak about the Charlotte Hornets with them making a major move here, moving LaMelo Ball, their franchise star player, to Minnesota for Naz Reid. I want to mention that their first move, which was kind of indicative of what they were going to do this offseason, was to absolutely secure the bag for Kobe White. They secured him to a 3-year, $74 million deal because they believe in him, and he did bolster their roster after the All-Star break this year, bringing them into a nice little playoff position. How did that work out? They didn't make it through the plan, and they may be in a similar position this year, but I guess they really believe that Kobe White would be the key and that they don't want to pay LaMelo $3 trillion, which is fair. Um, that's Michael Jordan on that team. They're not paying anybody ever. But man, this team kind of sucks right now. I know the edit over there is making it look like low key kind of clean, but I mean, you're telling me how is this team going to fit together? I mean, their starting lineup is Kobe White, Con Knuckle, Brandon Miller, which are their two best players, Brandon Miller and Con Knuckle. I mean, they're promising. They're young players. I get it. Royce O'Neal, Naz Reid, they're still mid as hell in the East, the way I look at it. They get rid of LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, two cornerstone pieces of their team that have been on this team for many years. They receive Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and Naz Reid, which Naz Reid is their best pickup there, but I just don't feel like they have much left on this roster. The Hornets did get the adequate picks so that way they can start their rebuild or whatever they want to say as an excuse for this, but they don't look great. Honestly, the Chicago Bulls look to have some sort of direction this next year after kind of just floundering in the play-in and that 7 to 10 spot every single year. Their big win this offseason was in getting the number 4 pick and drafting the number 4 pick with Caleb Wilson. They've been missing in multiple years of drafting with anybody that they draft, so I feel like they finally have a promising young player. They also managed to finesse Nick Claxton in a 4-team trade from the Brooklyn Nets. They also signed Norman Powell in free agency to a 2-year, $44 million deal. I feel like they kind of lucked out there. Free agency was looking kind of dry after a couple people moved, and everybody's waiting for LeBron to make a move. Uh, Norman Powell is kind of a steal for them, which I can believe all of these moves can move them up maybe, what, 2 seeds more in the East? I mean, the East is way too stacked this year. It's extremely tight. It's going to be hard for them to make any more extra moves after grabbing a couple of these players and filling them out. I do feel like they are young. They look nice. The Bulls are always a fun team to watch, and they actually have some sort of direction this year. Anthony Simons and Colin Sexton get moved the hell out so that way the Bulls can actually free up some cap space. They have a starting lineup of Josh Giddey, Norman Powell, Matas Buzeles, right up here, Caleb Wilson, and Nick Claxton all the way on the right side. It's looking like they'll make a little bit of noise in the East. It'll be fun to watch a couple of the highlights. I'm hoping Caleb Wilson has an almost rookie of the year kind of season. The Bulls are nice. On to the Detroit Pistons, where they look to retool their roster after fumbling their 1 seed year in the playoffs to the Cleveland Cavaliers last year. I'm very surprised that Jalen Duren survived the fallout of all of those offseason moves, but it looks like they're making the right moves. They move Karis LeVert, Tobias Harris, Marcus Sasser, and Big Stu Isaiah Stewart in return for Gary Harris to come off the bench, the Nuggets legend. John Collins, that is actually having his highest average percentage shooting percentage year this past season and has been a great player for a couple years. And they also steal Isaiah Joe from OKC. The Pistons are looking to make the right moves to improve their role players and their depth so that way they can actually do the right thing in the playoffs this year. Will it be enough? They'll still be able to contend in the East. The Pistons look to be more prepared for the playoff time this season, and they make the right moves and stay in contention. I still look for this team to be a top 4 team in the East. Good luck, Detroit. Now we move on to Miami. The Miami Heat make possibly the biggest signing of the NBA year, landing Giannis Antetokounmpo and to take his talents to the South Beach and make Miami relevant once again. After 2 full seasons of NBA trade rumors for Giannis, he finally lands in Miami to pair with Bam Adebayo and Andrew Wiggins. Is this a big 3 in the East? I don't think many people would agree. The silver lining in this entire trade looks like they mortgaged their entire team in order to get Giannis on the team. But do we blame them? Really? At the end of the day, I mean, you're trading for a top 5 player in the league. He's been top 5 in MVP voting every single year for the past 7 seasons, aside from last year where they tried to, tank so that way they can trade him off to somebody else. But they lose Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Khalil Ware in the trade, and they lose Norman Powell in free agency because they couldn't afford him. They have nobody on this team. Their starting lineup is looking like, what is this photo? Tim Hardaway Jr., Giannis, Bam Adebayo, Andrew Wiggins, and Davion Mitchell as their starting point guard with 0 bench included. This team is still going to be fun to watch. It's still going to be great to watch during the regular season. I can still see this team notching maybe a top 5 seed or a 6 seed in the East. I don't think they make it to the play-in. They'll definitely make a playoff spot, but it'll be rough. And depending on the matchups, they can make some kind of rumblings in the playoffs. Giannis can turn it up a notch. We've all seen him do it before. We saw him do it in the NBA Finals and take that pretty. I mean, they were a better team. They were a better team. Now that I bring it up, they were a better team than this team. They had Chris Middleton that was on fire in that series. They had, who could forget, The man that got to the Celtics and then also brought them a championship, Drew Holiday. I mean, they had quite a bit going on for them, but I don't think this Miami team has enough to make it. But hey, Giannis in Miami, this shit looking crazy. That jersey do go hard for Miami at Antetokounmpo. Now we move on to the real contenders of the East. Might we say the favorites of the East, the Philadelphia 76ers. The process seems to be making another 2019 like run with trying to win aspirations to try to win a championship with Joel Embiid on this roster. They make the blockbuster move to land Jaylen Brown, as well as adding Anthony Simons and Dean Wade from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Very underrated signing, while at the same time they get to dump Paul George after he was barely available for them after the previous season and was drug tested and all this stuff. There was a whole bunch of controversy with that. He missed way too many games. Now they look to be the top contenders in the East with a starting lineup, nasty starting lineup of Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, Dean Wade, the GOAT, and Joel Embiid. If this team can be healthy, which is the largest asterisk when it comes to Embiid. Everybody else on this roster, I'm not too worried about, but it's really just Embiid. If they can stay healthy, they may be able to win the East or at least dominate the East in this year. I believe Jaylen Brown, not Jalen Brunson. Fuck Jalen Brunson. As long as Jaylen Brown stays healthy and he's tapped in, he could deliver an MVP season for the 76ers. He's just got to stop spraying that hairline up on the top and going viral on social media. As long as he locks in, he goes bald, he goes 0 dark 30 on MFs. I think it's over. The 76ers look to contend. They look to take control in the East. They're looking nasty right now. Great trade for the 76ers. They'll be really fun to watch for a couple years for a good. I knew this Kawhi Leonard Toronto Raptors jersey would come in handy still after all these years, after still having it. The Toronto Raptors made the choice to bring Kawhi back to Canada while everybody expected this team to stay low key in the offseason. They managed to trade for Kawhi Leonard, sending him to a reunion in Toronto and sending Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick to Los Angeles. The trade is on hold for now, which I believe will probably be cleared after all the fees are paid and everything. The NBA conspiracy looms. It's a very long story, but the Raptors will be a relevant East team once again after 2019, bringing him back to the land. Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, Kawhi Leonard, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl. This is a great roster. This is a decent roster for the East. I think they shoot for another 5 to 7 seed in the East. Maybe a play-in, maybe not a play-in. The East has become much stronger this year with many other players coming back into the season. Will they be able to make a splash? I think Kawhi can do anything with this roster. The fun guy is back in Canada. It was a great era. It'll be a great era again in Toronto. Best of luck. And lastly, for a team that I wanted to comment on in the East is the Milwaukee Bucks. I could have added a couple other teams to this list, but I think the other teams just didn't really make any splashes in the offseason. Even though I feel like the Bucks made the reverse of a splash, like it kind of fucked themselves over, but nonetheless, we'll be talking about them because it's major changes with this team. The Nets really didn't do shit. The Magic really didn't do shit. The Pacers are getting Tyrese Halliburton back, but that doesn't count as an offseason move. There's a lot of other teams. The Knicks didn't really, they re signed people. There's a lot of other teams you can speak about, but we don't need to speak about them. So the Milwaukee Bucks choose to move on from 13 seasons of Giannis Antetokounmpo, which were fruitful, delivered many winning seasons and an NBA championship. Their new additions this offseason consist of Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Khalil Ware, Karis LeVert, and Kasparis Yakashonis. I believe I pronounced that correctly. He had a great shooting rookie season this last year, so they have a lot of younger players. This team gets much, much younger. The rebuild starts now past Giannis. Not only that, they got plenty of draft capital from Miami for that trade, for giving it all up. Nobody expects this team to compete this year. The team at least has a direction for their rebuild. They may compete in a play-in, but I mean, look at this. Like, the fact somebody had to make this graphic. Kyle Kuzma. is in a starting graphic in 2027, bro. And they still have Miles Turner. Like, what the hell is this roster, bro? They better hope they can get a good draft pick or hold on for draft capital, move on from some players. It'll be a very weird year for the Milwaukee Bucks, but they still made more moves than a lot of these bum ass East teams, like the Wizards, like the Nets. Getting what did they get? Julius Randle. We don't even need to comment on that. With that, we have completed all of the offseason moves in the Eastern Conference this year in the NBA. My next upload will be the Western Conference offseason moves next week, or hopefully next week, or really whenever LeBron makes his big move, because everybody's waiting for LeBron's move. That is the last chip to fall in this offseason. So I can actually make my Western video and see what kind of changes were made in the West. That'll be a little bit of fun. Um, we'll have to be waiting for Lay Decision 3.0. But nonetheless, I'm glad all of you guys have watched this video. Hopefully my picks are not void after LeBron goes to the Knicks next week, or God knows what will happen. But I'm glad y'all watched. Thank you guys for watching, NBA family. If you made it to this part of the video, you are an absolute real one. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and catch the next video. I'm out. Peace.